It's another coffee Q&A. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another coffee Q&A. It is Friday, the 17th of January. We're finally at the end of the week. So how's it going? Doing well. Anton, Peter, good to see you. Gosh, everybody's around. So today, we're going to do some Turkish coffee because Naomi was asking, hey, why don't we do some Turkish coffee? All right, let's do some Turkish coffee. So what we have here is a few items that is kind of the de facto standard for Turkish coffee. These are kind of more specialty Turkish type of items. So I've got some coffee here from a place called Chronotrop in Istanbul. Now, this coffee I've had for a little while. I put a link down in the description below to Chronotrops, and this particular coffee, if you look at that, their packaging has changed since this one. But this particular one is the Ethiopian Margarissa Lot 1. Now this company, Chronotrop, as well as another company called STC, Specialty Turkish Coffee, based down in New Orleans, Louisiana. These are Turkish coffee companies that are a little bit more forward-thinking. They're more in the specialty niche of the coffee industry rather than something like this company. This mug, this little traditional cup comes from a company called Kudukaveci Meme Efendi. And that's one of the oldest Turkish venerable coffee companies in Turkey. More on the commercial scale, whereas these guys and STC are more on the specialty scale. And actually the owner of STC, Turgay Yıldızlı, is actually an old friend of mine. I've known him for since 2013, I think it was. And we've been friends for a long time. And so the recipe I'm going to share with you is really something that he kind of taught me. It's a different approach to Turkish coffee. So if you're familiar with Turkish coffee, Kent, Naomi, good to see you. Mom, good to see you as well. If you're familiar with Turkish coffee, you might have seen online, and they've got different types of brewers. One of the main types of brewers that you're going to see out there in the world is probably something that looks like this. These are what they're called çezves. Çezves or ibriks are the typical term. I'm not sure which is, I don't know whether çezve or ibrik, maybe çezve is of the Turkish language and ibrik is Arabic. I don't know. I don't know. I should have known that. But these are two different types of brewers. It's very similar in overall design, quite different in actual execution. So as you can see, this one is the more traditional, the older school, and you can see that it's got this brass handle, but this one is cast brass, and the casting is just kind of, not very well refined. Then we've got our copper, and the copper is tin lined, of course, and it's a nice copper. I mean, but it is on the thinner side, right? It's a thin copper. You can kind of see the thickness right here, but perfectly serviceable. Now the STC has a version of it where they've come out with it a few years ago, and this one is noticeably different. This one is just for one serving, where this one, I think you could get up to 4 servings in this, right? Where this one is now, it's smaller, but it's also weightier. It's noticeably heavier. Actually, we can probably put a scale on it and see the difference with, let's look here. So let's do a comparison. So this is 204 grams, whereas this one is, 203. It's not that much. It's actually lighter, but it feels weightier. Wow, that's interesting. I guess weight-wise, they're about the same. It's just that this is a more concentrated mass of metal, so it's a thicker rimmed, thicker kind of copper, where this one is on the, so you can see the thickness difference, right? And then this tin lining is really, actually even the tin looks different, right? But it's a weightier thing, and it also has this kind of attachment for the handle and this curvature, and this actually gives it better balance when holding it, so that it's actually more comfortable to use this one. But either one works, right? The whole process is relatively the same. What we're going to be doing is we're taking water, heating it up, and then we're going to add the coffee and then brew it. Now, here's the thing. So with especially Turkish coffee, with Turgay's way of doing it, you actually get the water hot and then you add the coffee to it and then you heat it up. Or you can start off with hot water, mix it all together, and then you boil it. So in traditional, if you watch videos online, there's a lot of people that will boil. They'll bring the water and coffee to a boil 3-4 times. You don't need to do that. You can just do once. Turgay's like, just do it once. It's much better that way. And I've tried it different ways, and the results are better. Like if you go like 3-4 times with boiling in this, it's going to be really heavy. A lot of bitters, a lot of over extraction, where this one is much more balanced. And so we're going to do that. Now, let's see. Peter says, I own a stainless steel and aluminum. Yeah, the stainless steel. So if you don't have the copper, there's also stainless. And a lot of times you'll see the stainless ones that have like some kind of baked light or black type of handle. So very ubiquitous. And the nice thing about the stainless is that you don't have to worry about maintenance, right? Whereas with copper, you do have to worry at some point about maintenance. Like, for example, this one could be better maintained. Like it's a little bit tarnished. I could polish it more. And then at some point, if you use it a lot, your tin lining will wear off. And then you'll have to have it re-tinned, which is probably something you want to do, like cooking with raw, unless you're using like egg whites to whip it, cooking with raw copper, I think is bad for you. So yeah, that's not a good one. Naomi says, being so young while living in Turkey, I never got to try the coffee, but their tea is, oh yeah, the tea is lovely. The tea in the Middle East there's just like this one tea that I used to get. Well, I haven't gotten because I haven't been to Saudi Arabia in a while, but there's a particular brand of tea in Saudi Arabia that I just stumbled across. I just saw the container at the date store and I was like, I'm going to try it. And man, I just love the flavor so much. But it's something that's not exported out of Saudi Arabia. So I'm like, man, I need to. So next time, actually, I got to call some friends before this year's coffee show and tell them, hey, man, if you're coming to the coffee show, would you mind bringing me maybe a case of the tea? Ken says, I'm sad to say I've never had Turkish coffee. Well, this is the nice thing is that we're going to go with you and you're going to see how you could make it at home. And here's the thing. So while we have this coffee from Kronotrop that says Turk, right? It says here Turk, meaning that this is their coffee they make for Turkish coffee. And the thing about this is that you can use, so let's go back here. It says here, Ethiopia Margarissa lot number 1. And let's look at the details. Of course, it's all in, oh, here, no, there is English. But I don't know what Yakima Isu means. Heirloom type of Gigesa. Does that mean geisha? Maybe that means, could that mean geisha? I don't know. 1900 meters, Shakisa. So typically in the Middle East, coffees are usually natural processed, right? Because we're talking about arid lands. Ethiopia is relatively arid. Yemen, very arid. So coffees produced in that part of the world are always natural or typically naturally processed because they don't have enough water to like create water baths to do wash fermentation. So historically, the coffees in this part of the world are natural. So if you want to get the kind of flavor of Turkish coffee experience at home and you've never done it, get a natural processed coffee. Now you can use any coffee you want. This just like any style of brewing, whether you're doing pour over, V60, French press, Mr. Coffee, espresso, you can use any coffee in any device and make nice coffee, right? It's just a matter of the approach that you're going to take. So don't worry so much about that. Busa, good morning to you as well. Are the beans for Turkish coffee typically medium roasted? No, they can be any kind of roasted. Like I said, it's the Turkish coffee, like brewing, is really just a style of brewing. So you can use any type of coffee that you want. Now you're going to get, like with the different brewing methods, you're going to get a different kind of experience using the Turkish coffee, because now the coffee, unlike French press, where you separate the coffee from the liquid coffee, this is all combined. It's all one. It's all together, right? So it's all happening at the same time. Now, and then you do have, so in this kind of thing, you're going to fill your cup with water, with the coffee. Those grinds, as you're drinking, are going to settle. So this is not a kind of coffee that you want to have that's good to the last drop, right? It's not good at the last drop. The last drop is very, very rough, because you've got all this sediment and stuff at the bottom. And the more clairvoyant people in the world will take your coffee after you've drank it, put it in the cup or in the saucer, and then read your fortunes. So it's quite a versatile coffee. Anton says, I don't think it's that bad if you don't do it often. Oh, you mean as far as like difficulty to make? That could be. Booster says, we'll be heading to Bethesda on a regular basis now, since the food market will be opening up soon there. Ah, yes. We were just talking about that. They were asking me about, like, I'm not sure exactly the type of coffee service they're planning to do yet, but they were asking me about super automatics. And they had was it Sure? They sent me the information about the Sure. One of the big ones, and I was like, well, maybe we might want to consider the. I personally, when it comes to super automatics, like the. I did a video about them at the trade show last year, the year before. Eversys. I think Eversys is really nice, but yeah, that'll be good. Peter says those are Persian teas. Ah, okay. Oh, the Persian, yeah. I like the teas, man. The teas are so good. Then he says, I used to go to a salon owned by Turkish family, and they serve Turkish coffee made in an automatic coffee machine. Oh, nice. Well, they do have these machines in Turkey that are kind of electric e-bricks, and they're really popular. Like in that part of the world, they're so popular because it's like, how do you make your traditional coffees, without a lot of muss and fuss, right? Like this is a lot of muss and fuss for sure. Like if you're just getting up in the morning, it's just kind of like, why do we in America have the K-cup, right? Why do these guys have this? It's not exactly synonymous or similar, but it's it's not exactly the same, but it is similar. And then if you go to like Saudi Arabia, they have the Della. The Della is this, the one that looks like a pelican beak. It's got that like brass looking thing, the Della. And we should probably do an episode about the Della and making true Arabic coffee. But they have electric ones of those that you can use. I think it's pretty cool. The one that I think is really cool for Turkish coffee, though, is the sand heaters. I've been meaning to make one for a few years. Like I've always wanted to get one, but then you can buy one. But what are you going to do with the sand? What are you going to do with this big heater that if you don't make it every day? So I don't know. Busa says, I tried Turkish coffee for the first time in Elkid City at Syriana Cafe and Restaurant. Loved it. That's the little place that's right on the main drag, right? Kind of down the hill. I went there once because I was in the mood for some kind of, what was I in the mood for? I was in the mood one day for like some kind of Middle Eastern food, like a very particular thing, but I don't recall what it was. So I was like looking it up, and I found this place, and I went there. And another place that's really good for Yemeni. No, is it Yemeni or maybe it's Syrian? I don't remember now. There is a restaurant just outside of Springfield, Virginia, south of Alexandria. I think it's Yemeni. Yeah, it's Yemeni. I went there one day, and I was like, I could only eat a little bit because, like, let's say I think they had not Mundi. There's another term for Mundi that the Yemeni use. Anyway, my friend Fatin, she makes fun of me whenever we talk about it, because she's always like, all you want to do is eat Mundi most of the days. And I was like, well, it's really good. Anyway, but that's a great place to go to. Really beautiful. But the problem is you go there, you can't order I couldn't order what I wanted at this restaurant because it's a lot and I was alone. So I was like, I need to bring friends. Busa says, what grinder would you recommend for Turkish? You know, this is what I'm glad you asked that because this is what I'm going to go to. Let's go into that now. We've got our coffee here, right? And so let's have a look at the coffee. So we got our coffee here. We're going to open up the bag. And we're going to pour this out. Let's see what the coffee looks like. Oh, look at these. See, here you go, Naomi. This is the coffee from Chronotro. And it doesn't necessarily look like it on my monitor, but in person, this is lighter roasted. This is much lighter roasted than I would have expected for Turkish coffee, right? This is fairly light roasted. Sorry, the color temperature is all different, but yeah, I know it doesn't look like that necessarily on the screen, but it is lighter. So I'm kind of surprised, and yeah, definitely a natural, a little bit of fruity character to it. Now, here's the thing. So the most difficult part of Turkish style coffee is the grinding, right? Like you really want a super, super fine grind, like even a little bit finer than like espresso. Like it's a difficult thing. Now, if you can't do it, you just can't do it. Like it's not impossible. Now they have those, you see those copper ones, those supposedly grind, like the thin ones that have all the ornate like carving on it. Those can supposedly grind. Those are the ones that people mostly use. But the problem is, people don't want to do that. Even one of my friends, he was like, dude, do you know any? Because he's Armenian. He was like, do you know any like electric grinders that I could buy? And I was like, I will try to find out. But I haven't found anything really great. However, Turguy likes the Comandante I'm presuming he likes it because he sells it on his website. So you can buy a Comandante from his website. It even has like a little kit that you can buy for a few $100s that comes in like a red Pelican case that has everything you need to do Turkish coffee. So that's kind of fun. But I don't really have a strong recommendation. Like if you have an espresso grinder, you could use that. Especially if you have espresso grinder like I have, that you have a hopper that you put coffee in and you leave the coffee in there the whole time and you're not grinding by the dose. That's a pain. I don't bother to use the espresso grinders because they're set up for espresso. But if you have an espresso grinder that you just by dose using, you could just use that, I would think, right? But today we're going to use the Fellow Ode Gen 2 and just see how far we can push it, right? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to... Oh, the water's already hot. Okay. Good morning to you, Omniel. Anton says, they're going to read your future like you will suffer from copper point. I love that. I like that. Good morning to you, Omniel. I said that already. Anton says, Della Corte. No, Della Corte, you mean for the automatic machine? I don't know. And Busa says that Siriana uses a sand heater. Oh, okay. Oh, I think I do remember that. Okay, very nice. Anton says, I think there are onesie presso hand grinders that can do Turkish. Yeah, I think that as long as, yeah, I think a lot of those hand grinders can get down to that level of fineness. Omnio says, my niche zero set at 0 does a fine job. Okay, good. Onesie presso is very good. Can only recommend strongly. Excellent. And then Omnio says, Omni's onesie presso K plus took me 8 minutes for Joey. yeah, like that one time I think I was grinding the coffee for 20 minutes. Oh yeah, the Zassenhaus. If you have a Zassenhaus like that, that would work. But what we're going to do today is we're going to dial it all the way down, all the way tight. And we're going to see how well this will do its thing. Now, at the other settings, let's say the medium and coarse settings, we know that this thing goes really, really fast. I wonder how fast it's going to go. Let's see. How much coffee do we want to use? We're going to use, let's, we're going to use 8.4 grams or whatever coffee this is. Good. Maybe closer to a teaspoon, a tablespoon, heaping teaspoon maybe. All right, let's try it. Still fairly fast. Now let's have a look at our grind particulates. So it could be finer. It could be a lot finer, but that's fairly fine. I mean, we're gonna roll with that. If this is what you have, interesting place, interesting aroma, kind of winey, like red wine, like maybe sweet red wine kind of aroma, fragrance. If this is what you have, right? If you have just go to the finest that you can possibly get it. I wouldn't necessarily worry too much about like, oh, is it as fine as it should be? It's as fine as you can get. Well, that's good, and that's good, and that's good. O'Neill says, I usually do 10 grams to 90 grams of water. Oh, nice. We're just not going to I'm not going to measure it. I'm just going to go and roll with this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take we've got a little stand here. This is something from Chronotrop. As you can see, Chronotrop has this logo of a bean wearing like headphones. I thought that was cute. So when I saw this in Istanbul, I was like, I need to have one of those. So I think I bought this. I think I bought it. But if you go to Turguy's website, they also sell something very, very similar. They sell the STC version, and they sell them in different sizes. As you can see, this one says STC. This is the taller version, right? And this is, in many respects, this particular version is the safer version, right? Because it has this, it's taller, so you put the heater underneath, right? You put the heater down here. The heater goes down here as well. But it's the safer version because it has a cage, and so you could put your thing here so that if you accidentally knock it while you're doing something, like you're turning to go do something, it won't fall off. Whereas this one, right, you could do that. So this is the safety version, and this is the pro version, right? I think when we would do this at the shop, we would actually use this because, well, safety first, right? And you can get these like these type of like butane burners. These are really great. They have their own igniter, right? And they're wonderful. I like to use these for Turkish coffee, but also for if I need to preheat or quickly heat up the what do you call it? The siphon. These are really wonderful. These are about $45, right? So we're going to use the Chronotrop. And let's put this here. Put that here, make it all nice and centered like that. Put this on there. The water's already hot, so we're going to put the coffee in. This is probably too much. Oh no, this will be fine. I wonder if we could measure it. Oh yeah, I think the fellow will give us enough latitude. Oh yeah. Okay, so we're going to do this. We're going to use the fellow, and if Omniel uses 10 grams to 90, we have what, 8 grams? Yeah, see, math. This is why I'm not a mathematician. 8 grams to 90. We're going to do 90 divided by, we lose 20%. 20% of 90 is going to be 75, right? So that's 75. So we're going to add 75 grams of water. And we're going to use the timer here to, oh, I wonder if we use the timer, would it, if I just hit that, oh yeah, oh no. Okay, so, oh, what's going on there? Okay, so we're going to add the water. Now we're going to add the water straight to it. Oh, we're going to add the water now. Just about there. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to give it good, I'm going to give it not too heavy flame. Now I do have this little stirrer, this little olive stirrer that you can get. And we just want to make sure that it's all like good, saturated. And now we're just going to bring it to a boil. We're going to let it come to a boil on its own. So the Turkey method is to just let it boil once, and then we're done. We don't want to let it boil over, so we got to be a little bit careful. So you may have to grab the handle. Oh, there it goes. Oh. All right, that's all. And that's it. That's it. That's everything you need to do. Now we're going to take our mug, pour the coffee in. Whoops. That's all that will fit. And now we have our Turkish coffee. Very nice, very nice. You know, if you're outside having cigarettes, might be a nice time. So let's look at so there's a bit of this, the foamy crema on top. Naomi says, I'm not able to drink it as is. I have to add sugar. Well, here's the thing. So sugar certainly is a very popular way of a very popular additive to Turkish coffee. However, you know, one of the things I think that drives that is because, you know, a lot of times people will have, historically, these are all coffees that are using whatever coffee is available, right? And if we think about the years past, you know, generations ago, these things really came to fruition. I don't believe that coffee was processed necessarily the same way, meaning that nowadays we have a lot of functions available to us to produce very clean, sweet coffees. I don't think in the 1800s and before that, they may not have bothered with those kind of things, right? They just put everything, so any kind of defect, any kind of problem, they just put it in the bag. And then they roasted it. Then they didn't really roast it with, I mean, I'm presuming they roasted everything pretty hard, pretty dark, right? So we have a history of coffee probably being very difficult to what we're used to now, where people just came to accept that coffee was this bitter, harsh drink. If you're using nice quality coffees, I would say that you probably don't need to have sugar and cream, just as you would with any other type of brewing method. But one of the things about this is because we're pulling it straight from the brewer, from the Cezve, the Ibrik, it's also very hot. So you want to give it some time to cool down to a more agreeable drinking temperature. Anton says, I tried it without sugar and found it really nice. Yeah, and a friend made it for me. And I think that's also the process, right? If you have someone making the Turkish coffee or any kind of coffee, and they're doing like in the Turkish way, you brew it. A lot of times they'll brew it, pull it from the heat, boil it, pull it from the heat, bring it back, pull it from the heat, and then they're done. And I remember the first time the tour guy and I talked about this, I was like, so do we need, you know, no, 3 times, just one time. You don't need it. It's already extracted enough. And I was like, oh, all right. But everybody else says, no, don't listen to that. I was like, all right, sounds good. And I've done it many times since then. And I think that's a very true statement. You don't need to boil it many times over. And so by not boiling it many times over, you don't get that heavy bitterness. You don't get that heavy over extraction. So it's a lot more agreeable. Of course, this depends on the type of coffee you're using. And I think in this case, Chronotrup is a specialty roaster with this evidently very nice Ethiopia Margisa. And it's very lightly roasted, very specialty like oriented roast. Speaking of which, specialty oriented type roast, which made me think of like, oh, everybody loves light roast, which makes me think of Tim Wendelboe. And so Kent, how was your visit with Tim yesterday? Naomi says, I'm not able to drink straight up filter espresso either. Well, I understand. Malku says, I had a Turkish coffee recently, and it was the most tea-like Turkish coffee I've ever had. Oh, wow. Interesting. Easy to drink if you like the flavor because it wasn't sour or bitter. Oh, excellent. Charles says, morning from a frozen Baltimore. Yeah, it was kind of snowing last night. I don't know if you noticed that. I looked outside, I was like, oh, there's snow. Great. Oh, another thing that you want to consider if you're going to have this, and unfortunately, I don't have any of this, but something else to consider when you want to have kind of the Turkish coffee experience is to get something called Turkish delights. And you can go to like a lot of the different, Middle Eastern shops in the area, halal markets, and you can find, they usually have some kind of Turkish delight. I'm usually uniformly disappointed in them because when I went to Turkey, I went to a place, I found this place called Asi Bekir, I think, Asi Bekir. If you can find this particular brand of Turkish delight anywhere in your travels, here, this guy, this is their traditional logo. You can see him here. He's all like the guy with the turban and like with the beard. I think this is some killer. Like you get the ones with like the roses water and the pistachios in it. Oh, God, walnut. Oh, man. Nuts and stuff in it. Highly recommended. The rest are okay. Like they're just basically like gummy gels. It's like, and they're small. Like you get the Asi Bekir, it's like these chunky big things. You're just like, oh gosh, this is lovely. But that's something to try. Something to consider. So now that it's cooled down, zoom in a little bit more. Peter says, if you add sugar, you need to bring to boil multiple times, like a masala chai. Oh, all right. Good to know. There you go, Naomi. If you want to add some sugar, make sure you boil it a couple times. So now let us have a taste. So compared to other Turkish coffees I've had, like, traditional style Turkish, where they're really heavy, they're really kind of roasty, very lightly roasted, very clean on the palate, right? It like sweeps clean quickly. All right, very pleasant, very clean, very sweet, very nice, right? You just sit there and we just kind of enjoy. Kent says that Tim wasn't there this year, only roaster Daniel and wholesale manager Ben. Very nice session though. All right. So it was a coffee tasting, is that what it was? That's always nice, man, to go to Tim's place. Anton says, I'm still greatly enjoying Tim's Caballero Geisha. I will be putting in a subscription once I have diminished my coffee somewhat. What I like about Tim is that he's like a little bit crazy, right? Like he was like, I don't know if you know about his project. He has this farm project that he has. Like, a lot of coffee roasters will like, they'll buy from farms, they'll work with farms. Some of them have gone to the point of buying their own farm, right? And so they buy a farm and they have a staff and do this. Tim's a little bit more special in the fact that he buys a farm. So he I forgot the name of the guy that he bought it from at the moment, but he buys a farm in Colombia. So he's been working with this farmer for many years. They're good friends, and they make a deal for him to buy part of the farm for, I guess, Finca de Tim Wendelbo, right? And it's actually called Finca Tamana. And it's like, this guy, it's like most people who buy a farm will have farm workers and tend to it, but he goes there himself and like he's trying to cultivate the land to grow the coffee. So he's like tilling the ground, he's like planting the seeds. I'm like, dude, what are you? I said, dude, you're a nut job. You're crazy, man. He's crazy. But I love him for that. I love him for that. So he finally I don't know if you've seen, but Tim's actually released a couple books. And I remember I was like, dude, man, I want one of your books. Right? He's like, yeah. I was like, no problem. He's like, no problem. I said, but hey, I want you to sign it, but I want you to say "fuck you" in the signature. And he was like, hey, fuck you, Jay. And I was like, that's what I want to have. That's perfect. Don't slurp too fast. So, but that's that. I mean, that's how long I've known him. I mean, I've known the guy since like for 20 years now. So really, really a great guy. Always admire what he does with his coffee. Then he says, "Oh, I always thought sugar was added after brewing. Good to know." I mean, you could do it either way, I think. But like if you add it after, now you're going to be stirring your grounds. And this one so far really very pleasant, very pleasant. Like I'm totally enjoying the experience. Ken says we cupped 11 Tim Wendelbo coffees and just discussed different aspects of the coffee. Oh, any of them were your favorites from that tasting? Anything that was like super like awesome? And Anton says, sounds like a super good, sounds like gosh, reading English is so difficult sometimes. And it's the only language that I can read, so that's pretty bad. Sounds like the good kind of crazy. Oh yeah, he's definitely the good kind of crazy. Like we'll get together, like whenever we haven't hung out much over the last since the pandemic, but usually when we run into each other in different cities, we'll usually try to find a time to get together, maybe have something to eat, or like at least sit down for a cigar. Like he loves cigars too, so we have a good shared passion in that. So, this is nice. You can taste a little bit of the fruitiness from the natural processed coffee. Although it doesn't taste that fruity. Kind of, maybe I'm thinking of fruity. Oh, you know what? Now that I'm reading the label and I am reading it from afar where I can actually read it, I have been reading it completely wrong. Let's have a look here. So the Turkish coffee from Chronotrop is actually, this particular one is actually a blend. I was thinking at first, I just kind of glanced over this, not realizing that it was actually in Indonesian rather than just Turkish that I couldn't read. I just saw some, but it's actually called, well, it does say it is Turkish, but this is Indonesia Sulawesi Tawarko coffee. So it's a blend of Indonesia Sulawesi with Ethiopian Margisa. So what we're having here is we have Sulawesi Tawarko from Pandamaran region. This is a variety called the S795. And 1,400 to 1,600 meters. And it's from the area of Pongo Toraja Sulawesi. And then it's mixed with the Ethiopian Margisa, which is an heirloom, and 1,900 meters Guji and Danbi Udos and Shakiso. So and then it even shows two little dots here. So actually there's really good iconography here. This is the problem when you don't know how to read a language and you presume that you can like decipher what you're seeing. But actually, it's actually a really well-rounded blend. And now that the coffee's cooled down a little bit and I'm grooving more into it, it's really very pleasant. What you want to do, be careful of though, is when you're drinking out of these small cups that as you get closer to the bottom, you want to be careful of how much you're going to sip, because you could easily sip too much and have a lot of sediment. Like, I don't know if you can see that yet, but in here, you can sort of see it. I'll drink more. Like that last sip, I actually got a little bit of, you can see there, I got a little bit of the coffee. Anton says, I bet it tastes good as a pour. I bet, this would be, and I think it would be great as a pour over. I think that the nice thing about, when you talk about coffees, once you break free of the notion that when you label something as coffee for Turkish coffee or coffee for espresso, and you can break free of the thought that, that should only be used for those purposes, you can really use any coffee for anything. You could put Folgers in here. Not that you should, but you could if you're really one of those Folgers fanatics. Okay, so I put a little bit more. There was only a little bit left in the Cezve. So as you can see here, it looks a lot more, it looks more cloudy than the last one, right? So it's because I've mixed in, as I poured it, that mixed in a lot of the grounds and sediment. So I'm going to let that sit for a few moments to let it settle before we drink again. Because the coffee is fairly, very finely ground. So when you get those grinds onto your palate, it's not terribly pleasant. Anton says, it looks like you could go finer. Yeah, we could go finer, but unfortunately the O-Gen 2 doesn't go finer. At least not in its current configuration. I wonder if there's a way to recalibrate it. Although when we took apart the other one, I don't think you can. I don't think you can. I don't know, fellows watching, if you can go finer on it, let us know how we do it. Maybe we'll give that a try. Do I have time for a pour over with this coffee? Do I have time? I guess so. Let me go get some more. Let me get a brewer. What brewer should we have? Let's go with the classic. We're going to go with the classic now. Or, yeah, we're going to go with the classic. We're going to go with, where is the V60? All right, we're going to go with this V60. We're going to use the Swiren. We're going to use the V60 Swiren. We're going to give that a try. And some Hario paper filters. The Swiren, I don't know if we talked about this, but it's been months ago. This is something that came out right before the summertime, and it was it's like the release from Hario that I've been most excited about because it's like so different. Right, so the Swiren is this V60, but it uses these replaceable components. This particular one I bought from Amazon Japan because Hario USA was taking so long to release it in the United States. I was like, I'm buying it from Amazon Japan because it's available. And so it comes with 2 pieces and, well, 3, 4, I guess maybe technically 14 pieces. The base, the little, whatever you call that, and then the fan blades. Like it looks to me like a turbo fan, a jet turbo fan. And the blades, you just kind of pop in like this. Lisa, am I doing it right? No, I'm not doing it right. I'm doing it wrong. This way. Yeah, because you want to create the bowl. And the nice thing about this, you can buy additional blades or petals and different colors. So you can do red, white, and blue if you want to be truly America or French or Belgian. Who else has red, white, and blue in their flag colors? I mean, so many countries. Or you could do red and yellow like China. I mean, it's not the fastest stuff, but it is the coolest looking of the brewers. Like that. See, look at that. Like a fan blade. I just think that is terribly kind of awesome. And then this seats in there. Great. And then it comes here, and we put that as thus, right? Cool, cool. So let's first get our coffee ready then. We're gonna use, we're gonna go back to our standard brew, right? What benefits do you get from the design? I don't know if there's any benefits. It's just sexy. Huh? It's just cool. It's a V60. So at the end of the day, basically this is a V60, and you're basically taking the Venturi of the V60, right? Whoa, oh man. You're taking the Venturi of the V60 and just making the pedals to match that. So it really is the V60 shape in most manner. Of course, this pedal has fallen in the most difficult place to get it. So it's just a V60. Honestly, it's just a V60. So where you may find some kind of difference is that because it's just the pedals, the ribbing, and it's open air, there's going to be greater airflow around it. It's not going to be as thermally insulated as any of the other V60s. So there's probably and I've never tested this because I would never really thought about it until just this moment, but there's probably a much more precipitous drop in temperature depending on the environment, right? So that could affect it. Maybe it could make it nicer because, we find that a little bit cooler coffees a little bit cooler water tends to make the coffee a little bit nicer. So we'll sit that in there, and we're going to measure out 24 grams. Naomi says, I know the pain. That's all right. That's all right. They just, now that the thing fell onto the ground, that just made it worse. I think Oda specifically designed for pour over. Ah, okay. That makes sense. It's the most popular of the brewings, right? So it would stand to reason. Okay, we need a little bit more. Definitely more bypass, says Dev. Yeah, I think so. Oops. 24.2. Okay, let's bring our fellow Ode Gen 2 back into the picture. We're going to go now to going to go back to our normal kind of setting here, just before the 6, towards the 5. And let's brew it up, or let's grind it up here. I think with this thing, when you start to click this, I think it turns it off. Or maybe, is that right? Oh no! It must have some kind of sensor that notices when maybe there's some kind of thing that senses the resistance of the coffee to the spitting of the auger. What do I know? I don't know these things. Okay, so this brew is different. What benefits? Oh, we said that definitely more bypass. I wonder if it made the brew faster. It shouldn't. Like I've not noticed a difference in the way that it brews. It really is as though you just if you compare to a regular V60, which we have the switch, which should be relatively the same as the V60, right? It's the V60 switch. So. Is that right? A resident switch expert, Peter. What do you think? Is that right? But if we look here, these are pretty much the same styles of ribbing, right? So pretty much the same pattern. It's just pedals rather than a walled device. And because of the lack of this walls, whether it's glass, plastic, or ceramic, I presume we're going to have a lot more temperature bleed off because of that, right? Because there really is no insulation. So perhaps this would not be the best brewer for winter camping. Dev says, I'm thinking of getting one. Glad I get a live. Yeah, you know what? If one of these, you can buy it. I love it. You know, this is the most exciting thing that Hario has made in the last like 10 years. I was like, I saw that at the, if you watch the video from last to this past year's expo where I first see this, like I see it, I'm like, oh man, I'm like, I get one. And that moment that I saw it in the video, I was like, I gotta get one. And I gotta get one right now. Partially because I mean, a major part because I think it's hyper cool, but also because I was like, I want to be one of the early YouTubers to like, you make a video or include this in a video. But yeah, all right, let's get this all ready. Put that on there, and then you just take your filter. And in this particular case, like normally I will take the filter and I'll fold over the seam, right? But I don't know if we need to do that this much because the seam may just fall between the petals. And since there's no wall, there's nothing for it to protrude against. So I'm going to open it up. Stick it in there. Yeah, and you can kind of see, oh, that's not a, so here, that's not a good thing, right? It's just kind of folding in there. So maybe we do need to fold it over just to help it get, force it into like a conical shape. Sort of works. When we add the coffee, it will be it should fill it out. All right, so let's add the coffee. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. We're a little bit too tight. Okay, good. We're gonna see how much coffee we had retention. I think 24.2 is what we said, right? 24.2. Ah, 24.2. Look at that. I'm gonna call this the Omniel method. Okay, so 24.2, we got zero retention in our Gen 2. We're gonna go change to the brew mode, brew assist mode, my favorite mode. And then, we have to reheat our water. All right, so now we'll bring the water up to temperature so that we can bring it to boiling. Anton says, I find the Hario Pegasus more interesting than the Sweet. Really? All right. I mean, I guess the Hario Pegasus within the Hario world, that is kind of like the revolution, right? Because instead of having these conical type of filters and brewers, that's the wedge conical, like the Melita style filter. So I can see that. I can totally understand that. Me, I'm just visually like, I'm just like, oh, I want to put a light behind it in a cabinet. Just be like, shh. Anton says, switch and glass V60 cone are identical. Yes. Okay, great. And I'm having a tough time picking my brewer apart from the Pulsar now. It makes amazing brews. Okay, so you really dig in on the Pulsar. Excellent. Okay, not yet, almost. And Anton says, I always do first pour high turbulence, second pour more like osmotic flow. Oh, all right, excellent. Love it. All right, so as you can see here, right, it definitely, I wonder if I adjusted the exposure. Okay, this now on my reference monitor looks to me closer to how it actually looks in person. So it's, as I said, it's fairly lightly roasted. So we're going to reset. So, that was wrong. Darn it. I'm always doing this wrong. Gosh. try this again. Reset there. Now add the coffee. Shake, shake, shake. Okay, 350, 240, 224, 350, 1 to 14, 5. Hit that button. Okay, water is boiling. I'm gonna let that just kind of cool down slightly. I've come to the point where I like to get the water to be about 204, right around there. It doesn't have to be like the Tetsu Kasuya thing where you're like all this like super hardcore measuring, but all right, here we go. Now, here we go. We're gonna brew. Anton says he likes to brew pretty hard, so we're gonna do pretty hard. We're gonna do about 80 grams. For the first 30 seconds. All right, that's still too much. That's too much brightness. It's too much brightness. Let's reduce that brightness down again. Where is my... Oh, that's better. Naomi says you only need to press the left button to start the timer. No, I know. I keep forgetting. So many buttons, so many functions. Like I'm not used to having so many functions in. So now we're going to bring it to 100. Okay, good. I know I'm old and like, having a difficult time keeping up with the young people. Dev says, why don't you use an electric kettle to get a more accurate and controlled temperature? Because basically it's I kind of look at it this way. I like the old school of the boiling, but also it's like boiling is always 212. So I always know it's 212. And if I wait a few moments, then I know pretty much that it's going to come down to the range that I want. And I'm actually not so particular. I don't think you need to be so particular about the brew temperatures. Like I know people are, but I don't know if you need to. I think you can make really beautiful coffee without necessarily having to adhere to 160 degrees. Because it's very difficult to hit that. And I think also here on the show, it's like, you can go as hardcore as you want. And certainly I have in times, but it's also like, if we want to make coffee approachable to people, we have to be able to show them that you don't always need super fancy gadgets and super expensive stuff in order to make great coffee. You can just buy a simple brewer. And this, in many respects, is a very simple brewer. And we're not using very high-end tools. I mean, this is a high-end. I mean, these two here are pretty high-end tools. Like, was it 265 for the... It's like 265 or 165 and 265. I think that if we're trying to encourage the newer enthusiasts, it's a fairly for someone that's uninitiated. I think these are fairly steep points of entry, right? So it's kind of like how else do we have to temper it? So that's why I think. Plus, I think if we can just show like you can use normal tools you may already have at home to make nice quality coffee, I think that's all right too. Anton says, I actually dial in pour over more by brew temp than grind size. Ah, all right. And low temps are underrated. I think so. I mean, I think that we're also like I think we kind of have a misnomer about the brew temperatures, right? Because I remember that one time we were actually doing the testings on the water temperature. We brought it to boil, poured it into the kettle, tested the water in here. It was 205, 204 in here. Then we poured it right when it got to, I think it dropped down to we poured it at that temperature, and then we gunned it inside. Oh, we're kind of running slow. I'm talking too much. We're running slow. We gunned it in here, and it turned out to be 188, which even to me was really surprising because I'd never really tested that. There was a very strong fall off in temperature because there's so many things that are tempering the temperature. So I think that while we talk a lot about brew temperature, I don't think we're brewing at the temperatures we think we are. I think we're actually brewing at a lot cooler temperatures, and the results can be very good at lower temperatures. Kent agrees with Anton. And O'Neill says about during the process, workflow is just as important as the end result, for sure, for sure. If you enjoy the process, definitely it is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And we are very slow. Oh, you know why? Oh, wait, we changed the grind. I don't know why we're so slow. We're probably slow because I'm talking a lot and not paying that close attention. So we're 430, 282 grams. Our target is 350. And we got a lot of like it's slow. Like if we were to brew more of this, I would have to go to a coarser grind. But, you know, again, we're just here talking, hanging out. Yasmina, what's going on, Yasmina? How are you? Hey, did you, and for those of you who are up in New York, we were talking about this kind of last night. Yasmina, I presume you've heard about this New Jersey Coffee Festival happening on March 22nd. Are you going? Are you going? And so for those of you who may be wondering, there is evidently a New Jersey Coffee Festival in Homedale, New Jersey, at the campus of the old AT&T Labs, Bell Labs, where they used to do all the development. And Homedale is kind of like central-ish New Jersey. Like if you come from down where I live, you take 95 to the New Jersey Turnpike, and then you take the 195 across, you know, about the middle of the state, right by Great Adventure. You hang a right, and then you go to the coast, and then you take the New Jersey, not Turnpike, but the Garden State Parkway, and you go to Homedale, and it's right there. And so Rusty was telling about it last night, and I was like, oh, maybe we should go check that out. I've heard that, but you know, I don't recall if the brewer has been slow in the past. It could be. I don't know. I don't know, but it certainly is slow today. We may have to explore that in a future episode, like exploring. Let me write that down. I'm going to write that down. I've got a little notepad here for me to write down show ideas. So Sweerin. Rusty told you about it. It's news to you, but curious. Okay, excellent, excellent. So we're 339. Gosh, this is really slow. Now we're at 7 minutes. All right, so we got 352 grams in, 6 minutes, 45 seconds. Wow, this is going to be quite an adventure. Sometimes, Amya says sometimes slow can give you a very good result. Absolutely, absolutely. So that's why we just continue forward to see, like, what are we going to find? Because maybe we're going to have some kind of serendipitous event. Neil says, yeah, I've seen it tested versus a V60. It was quite slower. Oh, interesting. I wonder why that is. It doesn't seem like it would be because, I mean, the general physics of it or physicality of it is pretty much the same, right? So I wonder what that could be. There must be some kind of fluid dynamics guy that would tell. So about 7 minutes, 25, 30 seconds or so. Let's get our little glass here. So, fairly nice looking. Yasmin says, I'm a little late to the party, but how did you grind this coffee? This coffee was ground not terribly fine, more kind of what we normally use for our V60 or our type of pour over brews. And basically the O Gen 2 is set here just before the 6, right? There's one click to the 6. This is where we typically have it for our brews. And this is definitely the longest brew that we've ever had with any coffee in any brewer, or any brewer at this, or any pour over brewer at this setting. It's too low in that cup. It's got all the coffee grounds. So it's definitely like, I think the longer brew time resulted in a little bit more of a drier character to it. It's a little bit heavier, but a little bit drier. And when I say dry, I mean like Like if you drink red wines or maybe Chardonnays, there's that tannic element to it that from the oak. It kind of has a little bit of that tannin dryness to it, which could be I guess the longer brew time. But not bad, not bad. I think I liked it better, and I think that's probably the reason I'm going to say this. I think I liked it better as the Turkish style coffee rather than this way. But I think that's mainly because it took so long. It's just a heavier extraction on it, so it doesn't have that lighter sweetness to it. Yeah, I think I still like this one better. But again, I think that if we had done this coffee with a better brew time, I think it would probably be better. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Anton says it's because the water tends to only go down the paper filter border when it has contact to a surface. Oh, all right, that makes sense. Amnio says something about having less contact with the walls of the brew. Yeah, okay, that does make sense because if we have our two brewers, right, like without a doubt, even though we have this ribbing, the idea, and I think the idea behind the ribbing was that you're going to keep the paper filter off of the walls. I mean, it always sticks to the walls because it just conforms to it. So that probably, yeah, I can see how that contact allows it to flow faster, where this wouldn't, without that contact, would be slow. So you would, I guess, for sweetened style brew, we'd probably have to go a lot coarser to get the same timing. That'll be interesting. Maybe we should try that. We should try that in a future episode where we'll pit them head to head. Same coffee, same quantity, same kind of water. Maybe approach it with different grind settings to see if we can get equilibrium in time and exposure to the coffee, to the water and coffee, and see how the results are. Will they be the same? Will they be different? Suddenly, I'm getting sniffles. Anton says, same reason why bottom filter, paper filter drastically increases evenness of extraction for espresso. Oh, all right. Yeah, good observation on that. Good one. Dev says, I wonder if the lower water temp slows the brew time, especially because open air ribs. That could be, but I mean, we're not really talking low. We're still pouring right around just over 200 degrees. So it's not, I wouldn't say that it's really much lower in temperature. Perhaps the exposure would be lower because it's bleeding off more energy, more heat rapidly. And Anton says, oh no, the Hoff uploaded a video about a $50 Aldi espresso machine right now. Oh, he's back at it again, $50 at Aldi. I'm gonna have to go to my Aldi and check it out, $50. And I was just thinking about seeing if I can get one of those ninjas for $500. I wonder what he has to say about it. All right, well, that's kind of how you do Turkish, and a little bit about the V60. I'm surprised, or the V60 Swiren. So really interested and surprised to see that there are whole different ways of that it's different than was my expectation. Like, and it's great that you guys have these thoughts, like Amniel and Anton, because these are things that I hadn't really necessarily thought about. So that's good to hear. It's good to hear. It brings good thoughts to the mind to think more about it. And we'll explore some of that in the future. All right, so that's it for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Back again on Monday with more of the Coffee Q&A. So hope you're well out there and doing good and don't get into trouble. Yeah, Kent, have a great weekend to you as well. Be back on Monday and see you then.